I'm gonna show you a room that I don't even wanna show, but you know I have to show it because that's how messy it is right now. Trying to pack things and collect our memories, put our stuff. We're gonna have to get rid of a lot of stuff. We're gonna have to. As you can see, right behind it is a lot of pictures of my daughters, and that's what is so sad about it.
Mr. Rios packs up 30 years of memories from his house that is facing foreclosure.
Still, we're working on trying to save this house. Why we want to save it? Because, you know, we've been living here for almost 30 years plus.
To us, it's more than our home, you know. I mean, we know the neighbors for 30 years, and we are like a big family. We just love our home, you know.
The Rios family is not alone in cherishing the memories of their home. A few miles away, the Rowe family reflects on 40 years of memories at their home.
There's a difference between living in a house and living in a home. It's warmth, and it's beautiful. And I love that house. My daughter was born there. My mother lived there with us. Oh, it was beautiful.
Like the Rioses, the Rowes were also in danger of losing their home.
My husband and I, we went on a vacation, and his job went bankrupt, and we had mailed out all our bills, our mortgage, and all of a sudden, we got notice saying that the checks was bouncing.
However, the Rowe's personal relationship with a local community bank resolved the problem.
So they went ahead and secured the money in our account in order to take care of the next month's bill, without any question asked, because they knew of me for coming in the bank.
The Rowes are eternally grateful that they avoided foreclosure.
Oh, it would have been too devastating. I don't think I could have handled it.
It is for that reason why Mrs. Rowe, despite the fact that she could barely walk, boarded a bus for a 14-hour ride to Washington, D.C. to protest the government takeover of the bank that saved their home.
Without any encouragement whatsoever by the former bank leadership, this community came together and really began a movement to challenge the country to look at what is happening in community banks.
On January 21, 2010, dozens of people gathered for a congressional hearing on the collapse of Park National Bank. Under the private ownership of Mike Kelly, pictured here, the bank gave over a quarter of its profits to charity, yet remained profitable until the government-sponsored mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac failed, resulting in a $900 million loss for the bank.
You know, Mr. Kelly and his staff knew our community, knows our community, and knows what the challenges and needs are, and was able to be very targeted in terms of not only loans and business transactions, but also charitable giving.
Because Kelly was there for them, a group of 42 community members from an impoverished area on the west side of Chicago braved the 14-hour bus ride to support the former billionaire banker.
We viewed all types of wealth with respect, and basically had all types of accounts and relationships with the idea that as their wealth continued to grow, we wanted to be a part of it.
From my previous bank experience, it was, customers were more like, account numbers. They were known for how much money or, what they did or did not have in the bank. At Park, we actually knew the people. We knew their names, we knew what they did, and their, and what they had or didn't have didn't really matter. Is this, what can we do for you today?
I had a book of business that would be anywhere from a small mom and pop shop where we would help them with any of their, treasury management needs to large corporations. And there was no segregation. Everyone was treated the same.
Just remember this, Mr. Potter, that this rabble you're talking about, they do most of the working and paying and living and dying in this community. Well, is it too much to have them work and pay and live and die in a couple of decent rooms and a bath? Anyway, my father didn't think so. People were human beings to him, but to you, a warped, frustrated old man, they're cattle. Well, in my book, he died a much richer man than you'll ever be.
Like George Bailey and Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life, Mike Kelly genuinely cared for the people in his community. However, unlike George Bailey's savings and loan, Park National collapsed when tough economic times hit.
We took a $900 million hit that wiped out over half of our capital on September 7th. We were never able to recover. TARP funding would have been adequate for us to recover and go forward. That was not available to us. I still don't understand why that wasn't available.
Lacking $900 million in capital, and without access to TARP money, Park National was shut down by the FDIC on October 30th, 2009, the very same day that Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner awarded $50 million in neighborhood tax credits to Park National Bank.
It was surreal, is what it was, because here on this very day that the Secretary of Treasury was awarding Park National Bank for its community initiatives $50 million in tax credits, the FDIC was at that very hour getting ready to roll into Park National Bank's headquarters and seize profitable banks that have had a tremendous impact in this community.
And many speculate that the FDIC ignored that impact when they denied Park National TARP money, instead focusing on the bank's small size and the fact that it was privately owned.
You had 24 banks that had been committed dollars, and 23 of them got the TARP money, and one of them didn't. It happens to be the only one that was a private bank. I think the federal government, in all likelihood, had its concerns about how it might appear bailing out a private bank. At the same time, had they had any awareness of the level of impact that that bank has had in this community, it would have been a no-brainer.
As a result, Park National was sold to U.S. Bancorp at a cost to the taxpayers of $2.5 billion. U.S. Bank Vice Chairman Richard Hartnick defends U.S. Bank's role as being about more than profits.
We want you to know that we're in this process of resolving failed banks as an opportunity to invest in communities and expand our community franchise. We're not in this for a quick trade. We're not in this for a fast buck. I've got a lot of experience in this, so I feel like I'm on very familiar ground. The issues, with the exception of America's foreclosure crisis, are substantially the same as they were 25 years ago, which is, in some respects, I guess, a sad commentary. But
however, despite Hartnick's initial confidence, many residents were concerned with U.S. Bank's high rate of home foreclosures, as well as their record of giving less than 1% of their profits to charity, compared to Park National's 25%.
Initially, when Park was taken over, there was a lot of anger here in our community and in the region as a whole. That anger was predominantly directed at the federal government, but I think there was also some significant concern about U.S. Bank, and there was a question as to how they would function going forward.
A Chicago community group is targeting an area that's been hard hit by foreclosures on the city's west side. The group is called the Coalition to Save Community Banking, and some of the members of that group were out walking today along the 5400 block of West Congress Parkway. The coalition is claiming that U.S. Bank, in particular, has been a major contributor to the mortgage foreclosure crisis in that area and in Cook County.
U.S. Bank, across the country, is a purveyor of foreclosures and seizures, and we want to stop that. And it stops here, and it stops now.
Not only is foreclosure a horrible thing for our community, we need to hold the banks accountable for keeping up the properties. The properties are dilapidated, they're falling apart, so we want them to take care of their properties. If they're going to take those properties, which we don't want them to take care of them. Don't allow them to bring down the rest of the homes in the community. If not, let us have our houses back.
All right, Deborah. Yeah. On June 3rd, 2010, a group of community activists gathered at U.S. Bank foreclosure sites in Chicago's West Side to educate elected officials on the negative effects that foreclosures have on a community.
They called the police, and they just got 3 dogs out of there, and 1 dog was dead in there, and they got why they goes in and out and keep the back open. So I was just afraid that the drug dealers are going to start hiding it in there. You know, I'm afraid because I goes out and in, and the doors in the back stay open to the building. they can easily run in the building.
Well, that's why we certainly need the banks to take possession. That's one of the things that we're talking about, to have the banks take over their properties, board them up so we don't have these issues. And that's why the properties are constantly deteriorating, because they're not overseeing them. So this is something we can address directly with U.S. Bank.
The approximately 800 foreclosed homes on Chicago's West Side make it even more of a beacon for crime. Over the last year, the West Side has reported the highest number of violent crimes in the entire city. Here at Kids Express, a youth center on the West Side, these numbers are more than just statistics.
And the beads? No? Oh, the heart shape that you put the little tiny beads on.
Mike Kelly saw the youth center's vital role in creating a brighter future for the community. The youth center was rapidly expanding, and Kelly worked out a deal to sell the center a vacant building that the bank had previously foreclosed upon.
We talked, and they said, well, you know, we'd love to sell it to you. So they agreed to sell it to us for $150,000. We came up with $10,000, and Mike Kelly said, well, Dwayne, you know, you guys keep doing what you're doing, and you don't need to worry about the mortgage payment. It'll be a zero-interest loan, and as long as you guys are doing the good work that you're doing, you don't need to worry about ever paying the mortgage off.
However, Kelly didn't intend that his bank would be taken over and never formalized the arrangement.
You know, there were never any written agreements with Mike Kelly. It was like a donation from him, but he said, you guys keep doing your good work and you don't ever need to worry about the mortgage payments or the mortgage itself. But he said, but for right now, I'd like to keep it on the books. So it stayed on the books, but the intention was that it would be forgiven.
U.S. Bank did not honor Kelly's informal agreement, and once they took over, demanded that Kids Express pay back their loan in full.
We got a request from U.S. Bank as our loan became due on June 1st that the loan was due in full, that the $140,000 was due June 1st. Our operations here are working with over 200 kids. We're under $100,000 a year budget. So to pay off a $140,000 note just isn't possible, and not still have a program for kids.
Raise your hand if you bought something in the last week. Me. All right. Raise your hand if you bought something that cost more than $20.
Park National granted a $22 million zero-interest loan to finance the construction of Christ the King School, a Catholic high school built on Chicago's impoverished West Side. The school provides students with paid internships that pay for 75% of their tuition.
We're talking about buyers and sellers. We got Latrice is a buyer of an iPod. Okay.
Christ the King could not have been opened in a community in greater need than Austin, where there are 14,000 high school-age students and only 7,000 spaces in the public high school.
So almost single-handedly, he brought his bank to try to help a struggling community, Austin in this case, on the west side of Chicago. This was a person who felt it is not enough to simply look at the problem, but to do what you can to resolve the problem.
After the collapse, there was concern that U.S. Bank would not continue to commit to Park National's $22 million zero-interest loan. However, just 5 months after the takeover, U.S. Bank agreed to continue the $22 million zero-interest loan, as well as give an additional $4 million in direct support.
The partnership with Christ the King is real and substantial and ongoing. And I mean, they'd be commended for that. I think that, you know, all of the former leadership of the bank were really most concerned about, you know, the high school, because we know that, you know, in this community that the need is great for high quality high school seats and opportunities for families.
And a mud perfect day, right? You can just snuggle on in and enjoy that room and just kick back and relax.
Yeah.
You know, once you have the luxury of not having a boss telling you what to do, how to do it, where to do it, when to do it, why to do it, what's there not to like? That, you know, it's very nice having control of your time. And if you can put a service out there that you have passion for, that you want to do, regardless of if you make a lot of money or not, it's the work line gets blurred then, because you've got enough just sheer like doing what you're doing that it's not hard to get out of bed super early and do it.
Beth Harvey, the owner of Harvey House Bed and Breakfast, was looking for a loan to expand her business. Through some mutual friends, Mike Kelly soon became aware of her situation.
Mike Kelly one day rang my doorbell and introduced himself and asked if he could see a tour of the property. And he spent over an hour, and you think to yourself, how many times does a guy that has a net worth greater than Donald Trump and Steven Spielberg combined ring your doorbell and ask for a tour? He intrinsically got that when he helped me, he was playing a fundamental role in helping the community. He saw that when the 5 guest rooms were filled, that all those people were eating dinner in the restaurants in town, so that by helping me, he was helping all the restaurants. Without Mike Kelly, for the business to be in business today, it would have taken private equity investors to keep it afloat.
What has U.S. Bank done since it acquired the institution to keep that kind of faith and that kind of activity that was so well known and cherished with Park National Bank?
I assure you that we continue to offer the same products. That in fact, the products are unchanged at this point.
The U.S. Bank has a vastly different model than our model. They're a very efficient bank. They run with fewer people. I am very concerned about we had 2,400 people. I'm very concerned about how many people will be employed by U.S. Bank a year from now.
Obviously, after we failed, we knew that there would be a time where we would find out who was safe and who had been let go, and we were assured that by January 25th, everybody would know their fate. So it was kind of a 3-month waiting period to find out what the fate of your job was.
It was complete silence for a couple of months, and then they came in at the end of January, and then between January and mid-February, people were, let go or soon to be gone, or notified that they were going to be gone at a certain period of time.
So it was a very devastating week, finding out who still had positions and who would be staying.
In all, U.S. Bank laid off 261 employees. In addition to losing their jobs, they lost a family.
We were a family, we really were. And I think that our belief in what we were trying to accomplish, our passion for our bank, we had such pride in our bank. And I think that permeated, and we expressed that to our customers, and they felt it too.
The goal of the bank wasn't just to make money. The goal of the bank was to give back to the community. All of the employees were encouraged to participate with local not-for-profits. Certainly didn't treat any of the employees like a number. They really were concerned about the employee and the employee's family, very family-oriented. They would include our families on a number of different occasions.
He had so many social events, be it corporate events where we would go see a White Sox game, or family picnics at the zoo, holiday parties. That really solidified all of our relationships with each other, where we really did feel like we were a team and anybody would step in to help you out if you needed to.
I was with 2 previous banks before Park National, and I would say at Park National, we were more like a family at Park National than anywhere else I ever worked. Everybody really worked together. Everybody worked hard. Everybody wanted to basically walk the walls for Mr. Kelly. We all had the same goal. I mean, we knew what his goal was, we knew what his vision was, and that's how we treated each other, and that's how we treated the customers.
See, this is what we're supposed to be picking up is right here.
And that's also how the customers treated Mike Kelly when his bank was taken over.
Well, we hear that they were pretty impressed that a lot of people came. They kept talking about people, braving the round trip journey on the bus.
Following the hearing that took place in Washington, D.C. in front of Chairman Gutierrez's committee, I think there was some hope that there might be some action in Washington and a significant review of the choice of the FDIC to take over Park National Bank.
But when that didn't happen, our whole
thing was now we need to figure out, will U.S. Bank commit to the same level? How can U.S. Bank, being a national banking institution, commit itself to a community banking services as did Park National Bank?
After nearly a year of community pressure, U.S. Bank executives agreed to meet with community leaders on the west side of Chicago to negotiate a community benefits agreement.
We would like to be able to partner with you and provide traditional financial products to our constituents. Everyone sitting at this table is a gatekeeper who would also like to be able to do the same, but we want to feel confident that we're pushing people into a good product.
We would be very interested in having an agreement with the community, but it's got to be an agreement that represents the limitation or recognizes the limitations under which we have to operate. And if that's impossible, then we've got a difficult situation ahead.
After 4 months of negotiations, community leaders came to an agreement with U.S. Bank.
Chicago's #1 news. This is ABC 7 News at 11.
A new coalition is formed to improve some neighborhoods on Chicago's west side.
Area residents, community leaders, and the owner of a bank are now joining forces there.
Their goal is to purchase and rehab foreclosed homes that have been an eyesore in neighborhoods for quite some time now. ABC 7's Evelyn Holmes is live on the west side with more on this story. Evelyn?
Sylvia, the announcement about the plan was made just a few moments ago here outside U.S. Bank, which took over from the neighborhood bank of Park National Bank, which failed. Although after the closure, the community and the bank were having difficulty getting along, they really finally figured it out.
By the power invested in me, I now pronounce that U.S. Bank is an official West Sider. You are now a West Sider. We all from the West Side, and we fight back, and we work together.
I think that the community benefit agreement that emerged, that was going to be substantially less than anything that, the community was going to get based on the relationship we had with Old Park National Bank.
The community benefits agreement definitely was a compromise. When you take away a personal relationship, what's the value of that is what we were really trying to determine. A written agreement with the U.S. Bank, it really doesn't govern the relationship we're going to have with them going forward. The relationship pretty much talks about only a 3-year period. So it really didn't fill the void as we expected. But it was a way for us to at least establish a starting point where we have some performance measures in there. Whereas if we're successful in this first 3 years, we're optimistic that U.S. Bank will see the benefit in working with community partners and be a model across the country for other banks to also see how they can work with community partners.
Murder did take place when this building was vacant. Okay. And so we came in, took the property over, worked with the neighbors to make sure we secure the entire area, and started just cleaning up the property, cleaning up the building.
And Richard Hartnett flew into Chicago to basically take a look at and meet with all of the community partners, but we were able to have him actually give him a tour of some of the neighborhoods that U.S. Bank is, is located in, and also how this new agreement will affect, basically a positive reflection on how we were looking to rebuild this neighborhood back up. Richard Hartnett seemed to be very impressed, very invested into this project, encouraged by it.
That's great. I mean, you come in here and you see guys that are employed building this house. It doesn't get better than that. It really doesn't. Real people doing real work to rebuild America.
During the negotiations at first, there seemed to be some pessimistic share by the bank as far as that we were going to be losers. One of the things that came up in one of the negotiation sessions was, well, the bank is not in the business of losing money. The bank is not in the business of just wasting money into neighborhoods where the money doesn't show a result or a return. And this was one of the ways that we could show him that this is just not a charitable donation given by U.S. Bank. This is more of a partnership. This is more of an investment. Whereas these are the homes that are going to be rebuilt. These are the neighborhoods that are going to be invested in. And this is the expected return.
And on this block, there's a retired police officer. There's also a teacher, which really shows stable residents with stable incomes on this block. And we didn't want them to abandon their properties and just move out the neighborhood. If you notice, there's already 4 vacant lots on this block. Yeah. We want to make sure that they don't, continue to demolish properties. And actually being here, we actually started something because now 2 other properties are being rehabbed. Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
Good to see you. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
This is Representative Camille Lilly.
Hi, Camille. How are you? My name is Jerry Goldstein. How are you?
He's from U.S. Bank. He's been one of our partners to help us, go through the inspection. Thanks for your show up.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I was giving a tour of the house. Up here, we kind of did mostly rehab. We redid the treads here.
We had an open house on June 4th. One of the homes were completed. Residents came by. That was the return that was expected from the March 4th to June 4th. That was made by these dollars. This was not a charitable donation given by U.S. Bank. This was an investment, and an investment that was made good.
Three months later, the house that Hartnick visited is nearly complete. Even though it's early into the Community Benefits Agreement, Don Gallagher from the Westside Health Authority, the main beneficiary of U.S. Bank's funds, says that it has already had a profound impact on the community.
By us being able to go in and take these foreclosed properties, these abandoned properties off the market and actually fix them up, that helps to stabilize the block.
And he was very elated when we worked to get this property torn down next door to him because the gangs had taken over. It had become a drug den, and there were actually a couple of deaths in the building from people overdosing. And then we started working in earnest on rehabbing the property next door. Hey, sir, how you doing?
Fine, you?
Hey, I wanted to come
we
by
also try to make sure that we reach out and working with our neighbors. When we go, for example, when we secure a new piece of property, we go out of our way to make sure that we reach out to the neighbors, talk to them, let them know what we're seeking to accomplish, and we try to better understand how we can service their needs as well.
It's hot as can be today, record-breaking heat. But look at the street. It's calm. If we can keep it that way, together we'll keep it that way. Okay. See you later. Hey! Hey! Oh yeah, they're happy as can be. School will be out in a few weeks.
Nearly 2 years have passed since the takeover of Park National Bank. While the community fought hard for the Community Benefits Agreement, nobody at the federal level has been held accountable for the decision to take over Park National Bank.
We knew that we could read the issues surrounding this bank. We knew that we had common sense, and we knew that if there was an explanation, we could understand it. But the truth is, 2 years later, we never were given an explanation, and it was the classic, wear down community organizers, and eventually they'll just end up with something substantially less than what they had. And there'll never be a true explanation as to who made the decision and what was their rationale. We thank you for this privilege of gathering in your name. Thank you for your goodness, your mercy, your grace, your loving kindness. Lord, we know that with men some things are impossible, but with you all things are possible. And it means everything, the fact that you left homes and traveled this far over this issue. Believe me, our voices are going to be heard. And so we ought to really thank God for each other, that we took this step together. The legacy of Park National Bank, it brought us together. And the demise of Park National Bank brought us together organically in that, we had organizers from both sides of the usual city-suburban divide.
This was much more than just any bank. This was a bank that believed in the vitality of community.
The connections that we've established across communities have certainly been a very positive thing. And the commitments that have been made by U.S. Bank through the Community Benefits Agreement are certainly positives that will continue to contribute to the well-being of these communities. At the same time, there is no bank out there that is willing to function in the way that Park National functioned. And I guess in terms of the impact to the community, that's profoundly negative. And there's no other way around that.
He was clearly one of the most generous human beings that I know. He's not perfect. He's got quite a temper like many of us. But bottom line, when you assess it all, you go, the man put his money where his heart and his beliefs were.
I miss him. I hope to see him someday on the street or wherever he is. I hope to run into him just to say hello, how you doing, that I'm still praying for you.
It was a very exciting time. I learned a lot, and what they did for the community was amazing, and I'm glad I was a part of it.
It's a Wonderful Life. You can't recreate that movie. And Mike Kelly is unique,
I don't think people will forget Park National. I don't think the communities that he was involved in directly, I don't think they'll ever forget Park National Bank.
This man had to be sent down from heaven in order to do the things that he did for the whole community.